The doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a soft hiss. Minyu walked through them for what he knew would be the last time. Behind him came, her military uniform crisp and proper, and carrying a data pad filled with evidence that no one would bother to read. The chamber was massive. It had to be, to hold representatives from 47 different species. The ceiling stretched up so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. The walls were made of crystal that caught light from 3 different suns and threw rainbow patterns across the floor. It was beautiful. It was also cold. Minyu had been coming here for 5 years. 5 long years of trying to make the council listen. 5 years of being ignored, dismissed, and laughed at. Today would be different, though. Not because the council would finally listen, but because today Minyu would stop asking. The human delegation walked to their platform. It was small, positioned near the back of the chamber. The important species had platforms near the center. They were the old ones, the species who had been traveling space for thousands of years. Humanity had only been among the stars for 300 years. In galactic terms, they were infants. Sat on the highest platform. His species looked like tall, thin trees with silver bark. His eyes were dark pools that showed nothing. He had led the council for 200 years. He looked at Minyu the way someone might look at an insect. "The human delegation wishes to speak," said. His voice echoed through the chamber. Again. Laughter rippled through the room. Not loud laughter, but the quiet kind that hurt more. The kind that said they did not take you seriously. Minyu stepped forward. He had practiced this speech many times. He kept his voice calm and clear. "Thank you, Council Head. I come before you with urgent evidence. The Empire has violated our borders 17 times in the past 6 months. They have attacked 3 of our colony ships. 230 human civilians are dead. We have the proof right here. Flight recordings, debris analysis, witness testimonies." Held up the data pad. The information was solid, undeniable. Any court in human space would have already declared war based on this evidence. A representative stood up. His species looked like massive bears covered in red scales. "Lies," he growled. "Human ships entered our territory. We defended ourselves." "That is false," Minyu said firmly. "All 17 incidents happened in human space. The coordinates are recorded in your space," the laughed. "You have been here for 300 years. We have claimed those regions for 3,000. Perhaps you do not understand how borders work." More laughter. Minyu felt his jaw tighten, touched his arm gently, reminding him to stay calm. Raised one branch-like hand. The chamber fell silent. "The Empire is a valued member of this council. Their territorial claims are well documented. Perhaps humanity should focus less on expansion and more on learning the established order of things." "We are not expanding," Minyu said. His voice was harder now. "We are defending our people, people who are dying because the Council refuses to enforce its own laws." "The Council does not refuse anything," replied. His tone was like ice. "We simply have more important matters to address. Your petition is noted. We will review it at the appropriate time." "You said that last month, and the month before, and 6 months before that. How many humans have to die before the appropriate time comes?" The chamber went very quiet. Speaking to the council head like that was not done, not by junior species, not by anyone who wanted to be taken seriously. His dark eyes fixed on Minyu. "You forget yourself, Ambassador. Your species is young. You do not understand the complexities of galactic politics. The Council has maintained peace for 10,000 years. We do not rush into judgments, especially not based on the demands of a species that barely knows how to travel between stars." A representative spoke up. His species looked like floating jellyfish made of light. "The humans are always complaining. First it was trade disputes, then mining rights, now territorial violations. Perhaps the problem is not with others but with humanity itself." Heads nodded throughout the chamber. Even species that had never spoken to humans agreed. It was easier to blame the newcomers than to investigate the truth. Minyu looked around the chamber. He saw the same thing he had seen for 5 years. Contempt, dismissal, the absolute certainty that humans did not matter. Something inside him broke, not in a bad way, in a freeing way. "I see," he said quietly, then louder, "I understand completely." He gathered his papers and looked at him with confusion. "Ambassador," said, "we have not dismissed you yet." "No," Minyu agreed, "but I am dismissing myself, and I am dismissing humanity from this council." Shocked silence filled the chamber. "You cannot dismiss humanity," said. "That is not how this works." "Actually, it is exactly how it works. Humanity joined this council voluntarily. We signed treaties that promised mutual protection and fair treatment. Those treaties have been broken, repeatedly, so we are leaving." "You are overreacting," a counselor said. "We simply need more time to investigate." "You have had 5 years, that is enough time." Minyu looked directly at. "Humanity came to you as friends. We offered our technology, our resources, our help. We asked only for the same respect you give each other. Instead, you have treated us like children, like problems, like we do not matter." "You are acting emotionally," said. "This is why young species should not have positions of authority. They cannot control themselves." Minyu smiled. It was not a happy smile. "You are right about one thing. We are emotional. We feel things like loyalty and anger and disappointment. Maybe that is why we notice when we are not wanted." He turned to leave, and followed immediately. "If you leave now," called out, "do not expect the council to welcome you back." Minyu stopped at the door. He looked back one final time. "We will not be coming back, and when you need us, do not expect us to welcome you either." The 3 humans walked out. The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. In the chamber there was silence. Then the representative laughed. Dramatic exit, very human. "They will be back," the said confidently. "Where else can they go? They need the council more than the council needs them." Said nothing. He simply marked the human petition as indefinitely tabled and moved on to the next item on the agenda. None of them noticed that something had just changed. The galaxy had just become a little bit smaller, and humanity had just remembered an old lesson from Earth. Sometimes the only way to win is to stop playing the game. Outside the chamber, Minyu stood for a moment, looking at the beautiful building one last time. "What now?" asked quietly. "Now," Minyu said, "now we go home and we prepare." "Prepare for what?" Minyu started walking toward their ship, for when they realize what they have lost. The recall order went out within hours of Minyu's return to Earth. It was simple and clear. Every human diplomat in council space was to return home immediately. Every trade office was to close. Every embassy was to shut down. Every human ship was to withdraw to human territory. The director of Human Defense Forces sat in his office on the moon base and watched the reports come in. Ship after ship reporting their return. Base after base confirming shutdown. It was the largest coordinated withdrawal in human history. "Are you sure about this?" his second-in-command asked. "We are cutting ourselves off from half the galaxy." Nodded slowly. "They wanted us to learn our place. Now they will learn what our place was worth." Across the galaxy, the withdrawal happened quietly, too quietly. The council did not notice at first. Why would they? Humans were a minor species. Their absence meant nothing. On the trading world of 7, a station manager named closed the human office. She had run it for 3 years. The office employed 200 people from a dozen different species. Now they all stood in the main hall, confused. "What about our contracts?" a clerk asked. "They will be honored until completion," said. "After that, no renewals. This office is closed." "But we handle 30% of all trade through this sector." You did, now you will have to handle it yourselves. Handed the office keys to the station administrator. Good luck. She walked out. Behind her, the reality began to sink in. Without the human office, there was no one to process shipping permits, no one to verify cargo, no one to settle trade disputes. The system that had run smoothly for years suddenly had a massive hole in it. The same thing happened across Council space. Human security teams protecting colony worlds packed up and left. Human medical ships that traveled to frontier stations recalled to home ports. Human engineers who maintained relay stations and communications hubs abandoned their posts. In the first month, the Council barely noticed. In the second month, complaints started coming in. By the third month, the economy was in trouble. Was a junior economic analyst for the Council. She worked in a small office reviewing trade data. She was the first to see the pattern. Humans had not been major players in any single industry, but they had been minor players in almost every industry. They filled the gaps. They did the jobs others did not want. They worked the routes others found too dangerous or unprofitable. Now those gaps were empty. Ran the numbers 3 times because she could not believe them. Then she took her report to her supervisor. The human withdrawal has cost the galactic economy 4 trillion credits, she said, placing the data on his desk. Her supervisor barely looked at it. Impossible. Humans were barely involved in the economy. That is what I thought, but look at the breakdown. Human ships carried 40% of all cargo through the neutral zones. Human security forces protected 60 council colonies. Human engineers maintained 17 major relay stations. Human medical ships serviced 42 frontier worlds. When you add it all up, 4 trillion credits, her supervisor said quietly, finally reading the report. And that is just in 3 months. If the withdrawal continues, the costs will multiply. Take this to the Council. She presented her findings to a subcommittee. They thanked her politely and dismissed her report. The humans were making a statement, they said. They would be back soon. Young species always came back. Went back to her office and watched the numbers continue to climb. On Earth, other changes were happening. Sara, the chief science officer of Humanities Research Division, stood in a facility that officially did not exist. It was buried 3 kilometers below the Antarctic ice. Project Curtain Fall is ready, she told the gathered military commanders. We can deploy it within days. Explain it again, said, simply. Sora pulled up a holographic display. It showed human space surrounded by a web of satellites and defense platforms. For the past 10 years, we have been building a defense network. Not just weapons, but sensors, jammers, communication blockers, and autonomous defense platforms. When activated, it will create a complete barrier around human space. Nothing gets in without our permission. Nothing gets out without us knowing. A curtain of silence said, exactly. The Council will not be able to scan our territory. They will not be able to listen to our communications. They will not even be able to send messages in. We will be completely isolated. Is that what we want? Another commander asked. Complete isolation. Looked at the display. They isolated us first. They just did not realize it. At least this way, we control the isolation. Deploy it, he ordered. 3 days later, the curtain fell. Every sensor the Council had pointed at human space went blind. Every communication channel went silent. Human space became a black box. The Council tried to investigate. They sent ships to human borders. The ships were met by automated defense platforms that delivered a simple message. Human territory is closed. Turn back now. When one ship tried to push through anyway, the defense platforms disabled its engines and pushed it back across the border. No one was hurt, but the message was clear. The humans were serious. 5 months after Minu walked out of the Council chamber, finally called a meeting to discuss the human situation. They cannot maintain this, he said. "They are cutting themselves off from galactic civilization." "They are costing us money," a trade representative argued. "The shipping delays alone are destroying profit margins." "Several colonies have reported increased pirate activity," a military officer added. "Without human security forces, we do not have enough ships to patrol everywhere." "Then we will hire other security forces," said. "We tried. The humans were doing the job for 20% less than anyone else. We cannot afford to replace them." "Then the colonies will have to increase their defense budgets." "They do not want to. They want the humans back." Slammed his hand on the table. It was the first time many had seen him show emotion. "We will not beg a junior species to return. We will adapt. We will find solutions. The Council survived for 10,000 years before humans arrived. We will survive their absence." But even as he said it, reports kept coming in. Trade routes were failing. Colonies were struggling. Communication delays were causing problems across multiple sectors. The holes the humans left were not being filled. On a frontier station called Outpost Meridian, the station commander watched his sensors with growing concern. The medical ship was 3 weeks late. Usually, a human medical ship came every month. They provided supplies, treated the sick, and trained local medical staff. Now there was no ship, and there was a plague spreading through the lower levels. He tried to contact the Council for help. They told him they would send a ship when one became available. That could be months. In the end, 43 people died, people who would have lived if the human medical ship had come. The commander wrote a report about it. The report went to the Council. The Council filed it away. They did not connect the dots. They did not see that this was happening in dozens of places across their territory. Or perhaps they saw it and did not care. Who had closed the trading office on 7, sat in her apartment on Earth and watched the news. The galactic economy was struggling. The Council was scrambling, and Earth was thriving. All the resources that had gone to helping Council species were now being used at home. All the human workers who had serviced Council space were now building things in human territory. Earth and her colonies were experiencing an economic boom. "They think we need them," said to her friend. "They always thought we needed them more than they needed us." "Did we?" her friend asked. Smiled. "We needed them to treat us fairly. They could not do that, so now we do not need them at all." In his office on the moon received the final report. Every human had returned home. Every office was closed. Every connection to Council space was severed. The curtain was operating perfectly. "It is done," he said quietly. "Humanity is alone again." His assistant looked worried. "What if we are making a mistake? What if something happens and we need the Council?" Thought about Minu's face when he returned from that final meeting. He thought about the contempt in his voice. He thought about the 230 civilians who died because the Council would not enforce its own laws. "Then we will handle it ourselves," he said, "like we always have." Outside his window, Earth turned silently in the void. Alone, independent, free. The first colony disappeared without warning. One day it was there, a mining world with 30,000 inhabitants. The next day, the Council received a distress signal that cut off after 3 seconds. When ships arrived to investigate, they found nothing but dust. The buildings were gone. The people were gone. Even the ore in the mines was gone. The entire planet looked like it had been stripped clean by a giant mouth. The Council declared it a mysterious tragedy. They sent investigators. The investigators found traces of organic material unlike anything in their databases. They also found something else. A pattern carved into the bedrock in the center of where the colony had been. It looked like a spiral. 2 weeks later, another colony disappeared. Then another. Then 3 more in a single day. The Council called an emergency session. Looked more worried than anyone had ever seen him. "We are facing an unknown threat. All colonies in the outer rim are to be evacuated immediately. Evacuated where? A representative asked. We do not have enough ships to move everyone at once. Then prioritize the core worlds of each species. We will save who we can. But the threat moved faster than anyone expected. The evacuation ships sent to the 7th colony arrived to find it already gone. The ships barely escaped as something massive moved through the system. The sensors caught glimpses of it. Thousands of ships, millions of creatures, all moving together like drops of water in a river. The swarm had arrived. Was a military observer for the Council's defense fleet. His job was to study threats and recommend strategies. He had been doing this for 20 years. He had never seen anything like the swarm. He sat in the war room watching footage from the few ships that had escaped swarm attacks. The creatures were insect-like but massive. Some were as large as battleships. They did not use conventional weapons. They simply covered their targets like a blanket and consumed them. Ships, stations, planets. It did not matter to them. How do we fight this? A general asked. Shook his head. I do not know. Our weapons barely hurt them. Our shields do not stop them. They do not respond to communication. They do not retreat when hurt. They just keep coming. Then we need more ships. We do not have more ships. The humans took their security forces home, remember. We have half the military capacity we had a year ago. The general looked angry. Then we will make do with what we have. But making do was not enough. The Council fleet engaged the swarm at the Battle of 200 Council ships against an endless tide of swarm creatures. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, only 43 Council ships survived. They retreated in chaos. The swarm did not chase them. It simply moved on to the next target. It was not interested in fighting. It was interested in consuming. Now promoted to Fleet Admiral of Earth's Navy, sat in his command center and watched the battle reports from Council space. His officers stood around him, reading the data in silence. They are losing, one officer said quietly. They are losing badly. How many colonies have they lost now? Asked. 47. The number grows every day. And they have asked us for help. 73 requests in the past month, all unanswered per the silence protocol. Nodded slowly. He felt no joy watching the Council struggle, but he felt no sympathy either. They had made their choice. Humanity had made theirs. Admiral, we have movement at Sector 7, a sensor officer called out. Swarm elements approaching human space. Everyone in the command center tensed. This was the moment they had been preparing for, the moment the curtain would be tested. How many? Asked calmly. A probe force, maybe 500 creatures. Let them come. The swarm creatures crossed into human space. The moment they did, the curtain activated. Thousands of autonomous defense platforms came alive. They did not fire weapons. They did not issue warnings. They simply acted. The defense platforms released a cloud of nanobots. The nanobots were programmed to identify organic material that matched swarm DNA. They found it. They consumed it. In 30 seconds, 500 swarm creatures became 500 clouds of dust. The dust drifted away in the solar wind. Nothing remained. The swarm sent another probe. Larger this time, 2,000 creatures. The same thing happened. Then they sent 5,000, then 10,000. Every time the curtain destroyed them completely. After the 5th attempt, the swarm stopped trying. Human space became a dead zone for them. They flowed around it like water around a rock. Council sensors detected this. They could not see what was happening in human space, but they could see the swarm avoid it. They sent urgent messages asking how humanity was defending itself. The messages went unanswered. In the council chamber, panic was replacing confidence. Species that had mocked humanity a year ago now screamed for help. We must contact the humans, a counselor insisted. They clearly know how to fight this threat. "We will not beg," said, but his voice was weaker now. "The council does not beg." "Then the council will die," said. She had been promoted to senior analyst after her predictions about the human withdrawal proved correct. Now she stood before the council with new data. At current rates, the swarm will consume 70% of council space within 2 years. Within 5 years, we will cease to exist as a functioning government. "You are being dramatic," said. "I am being accurate. Look at the numbers yourself." She projected the data for everyone to see. The spiral of swarm territory eating into council space. The projections growing worse with each passing week. "We cannot stop them. Our military is not designed for this kind of war. We have rules, we have honor, we have protocols. The swarm has hunger, and hunger does not follow rules." A representative spoke up. "What about the humans? They are stopping the swarm. How?" "We do not know. They will not talk to us." "Then we will force them to talk." "With what?" asked quietly. "Our broken fleet, our dying economy, our desperation. The humans owe us nothing. We made sure of that." Silence fell over the chamber. For the first time they understood what they had done. They had dismissed humanity. They had mocked them. They had refused to help when help was needed. And now, when the council needed help, humanity was simply returning the favor. Stood outside the chamber after the session ended. He was supposed to be developing a new strategy against the swarm, but every strategy he created ended the same way: defeat, destruction, extinction. There was only one strategy that might work, but it required something the council had never done before. It required humility. He walked to his private office. The council head was standing by the window looking out at the city below. He looked old, tired. "I know why you are here," said without turning. "You want me to contact the humans." "Yes." "And what makes you think they will help us?" "Nothing, but I know they will not help us if we do not ask." Was quiet for a long moment. "I was wrong about them," he finally said. "I thought they were impulsive, emotional, unable to think long-term, but they planned this. They prepared for a threat we could not even imagine. They built defenses while we built pride." "It is not too late to change," said. "Is it not? We dismissed them. We laughed at them. We let their people die because we did not care. Why would they care about us now?" "Because they are human. And humans, despite everything, still believe in giving second chances." Turned to look at him. "You sound like you admire them." "I do. They were right about us. We were wrong about them, and now we must live with that truth." Walked to his desk. He pulled up a communication interface. He stared at it for a long time. "If I do this," he said quietly, "I am admitting that the council was wrong. I am admitting that I was wrong. The other species will lose faith in our leadership. If you do not do this, there will be no species left to lead." His hand hovered over the interface. Pride fought with necessity. Ego battled with survival. He thought about 10,000 years of council history. He thought about 200 years of his own leadership. He thought about how it would all end if he did not make this choice. He pressed the button. "This is Council Head," he said into the silence. "I am requesting an audience with humanity's leadership. We need to talk." The message went out into human space. It hit the curtain and stopped. For 3 days there was no response. Then finally a single word came back. "Agreed." The meeting location was a neutral space station on the border of human territory. It had been built centuries ago as a refueling stop between council space and the outer rim. Now it sat empty, maintained by automated systems, waiting for a purpose. Today, it found one. Arrived with a delegation of 20, military leaders, diplomats, economic advisors, and they came in the finest ship the council had, trying to project confidence. But everyone on board knew the truth. They were beggars coming to ask for help. The station's docking bay was clean but basic. No decorations, no welcoming party, just cold metal and harsh lights. A single human stood waiting. It was Minu. He looked older, tired, but his eyes were sharp and clear. He nodded to the delegation but did not bow or show any formal respect. "Follow me," he said simply. They walked through corridors that echoed with their footsteps. The station felt empty, dead. Found himself wondering if this was how humanity saw the council now. Empty, dead. The conference room was small, too small for a delegation this size. They had to crowd around a single table. It was clearly intentional. Everything about this meeting was designed to make them uncomfortable. Minyu sat down. You wanted to talk. Expected more people, more ceremony, but it was just Minyu sitting alone at a table waiting. He realized that this was a test. Humanity wanted to see how desperate they were. He swallowed his pride. "The swarm is destroying us. We need your help." "The swarm has been destroying you for 6 months, Minyu said. "Why ask for help now?" "We thought we could handle it ourselves. And we were wrong." The words hung in the air. Had just admitted out loud that the council was wrong, that their military was insufficient, that they needed help from the species they had dismissed. Minyu leaned back in his chair. 6 months ago, I stood in your chamber and asked for help. Do you remember what you said?" "I remember." "What did you say? I want to hear it." Closed his eyes. "I said you needed to learn your place. And now I am asking you to help us find our place among the living instead of the dead." Minyu was quiet for a moment, then he stood up. "Wait here." He left the room. The council delegation sat in silence. 20 minutes passed, then 30. Wondered if Minyu would even come back. Maybe this was it. Maybe humanity would just leave them sitting here until they gave up and went home to die. Then the door opened. But it was not Minyu who entered. It was a woman in a formal suit, flanked by 2 others. One was Minyu. The other was in her military uniform. "I am," the woman said, sitting at the head of the table, "Prime Minister of the United Human Nations. Minyu tells me you need our help." "We do," said. "The swarm is an extinction-level threat, not just to the Council but to all intelligent life in this region of space." "Except humans," said. "We seem to be fine." "Because you have defenses we do not understand, weapons we have never seen. We need access to those defenses." Interesting word. Need. Not ask. Not request. Need. Folded her hands on the table. "Let me tell you what I need, Council Head. I need to know that if we save you today, you will not dismiss us tomorrow. I need to know that human lives will matter as much as lives or any other lives. I need to know that we will not waste our resources helping people who will never see us as equals." "We see you as equals now," said. "Do you? Or do you just see us as tools? Use the humans to fight the swarm, then go back to ignoring them once the danger passes." Spoke up, "Prime Minister, I understand your anger, but we do not have time for this. The swarm is advancing. Every day we delay, thousands die." Turned to look at him. "And when our people were dying, you had plenty of time. You had 5 years. But now, when it is your people dying, suddenly there is urgency." "That was wrong," said firmly. "What the Council did to humanity was wrong. I am saying it clearly. We were wrong." "One person's apology means nothing," said from her position by the wall. "The Council needs to apologize, officially, formally, on record." Felt something twist inside him. His pride screamed against this. But he looked at. He thought about the 47 colonies already lost. The projections showing 70% of Council space consumed. He thought about the end of everything his civilization had built. "The Council apologizes," he said. Each word felt like pulling teeth. "We were wrong to dismiss your concerns. We were wrong to ignore your petitions. We were wrong to let your people die. We apologize." Pulled out a data pad. "That is a start. Here are our terms for assistance." She slid the pad across the table, picked it up and began to read. His expression grew more shocked with each line. 3 permanent seats on the Council. Full voting rights. This would make humanity one of the most powerful voices in galactic politics. Yes, said simply. And you want reparations for 5 years of economic losses. We lost money protecting your colonies, maintaining your trade routes, filling gaps in your economy. Yes, we want reparations. And complete access to our military databases, our technology, our strategic plans. If we are going to fight this war together, we need to know what we are working with, or rather, what we are working around. Looked up from the pad, these terms are excessive. Began to stand, then we are done here. Wait, said quickly. I did not say no, I said they are excessive, there must be room for negotiation. There is no negotiation. These are the terms, accept them or leave. You would condemn billions to death over politics. We would respect our own worth, something you failed to do. His voice was hard. For years, we provided services to the council at a fraction of what others charged. We protected colonies without asking for payment. We helped because we believed in civilization, in cooperation, in mutual respect, and you treated us like servants, like children, like we did not matter. We have admitted we were wrong. Admitting it is not enough. You need to prove it. These terms prove it. They prove that humanity is not just a tool you use and discard. They prove that we are partners, equals. One of the diplomats spoke up. If we give you this much power, you could dominate council politics. Laughed, it was a cold sound. You think we want to dominate the council? We do not even want to be part of the council. We were happy being alone. You came to us, remember, you need us. We do not need you. The truth of that statement settled over the room like a weight. Looked at the pad again. 3 permanent seats, full voting rights, reparations, technology sharing, military alliance, guaranteed sovereignty. Every term stripped away council power and gave it to humanity. But every term also gave the council a chance to survive. What guarantee do we have that you will actually help us if we agree? He asked. None, said. Just like we had no guarantee when we asked you for help. You are asking us to take this on faith, the same thing you refused to give us. Stood up, he walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the swarm was consuming another colony, another world, another million lives. He turned back to face. If I agree to these terms, I will be seen as weak. I will be seen as selling out the council to save my own career. If you do not agree, you will be seen as dead, Minyu said quietly, along with everyone else in council space. Give us 1 day to discuss this, said. You have 4 hours, replied. After that, we assume your answer is no, and you will be escorted out of human space. The council delegation was taken to a waiting room. They sat in silence for a long time. Finally spoke. We have to accept. We do not have to do anything, a diplomat said. These terms are humiliating. These terms are survival, said, and they are generous considering how we treated humanity. Generous, they are taking control of the council. They are taking their place in the council, the place we should have given them years ago. Listen to the arguing. He thought about his 200 years as council head. He thought about the pride of his species. He thought about the 10,000 years of council history. Then he thought about what would be left if he said no. Nothing, just dust and memories. He walked back to the conference room, was still sitting there, exactly where he had left her. Minyu and stood behind her like statues. We accept your terms, said, all of them. Did not smile, did not celebrate, she simply nodded. Then humanity is at your service, council head. She stood and extended her hand, looked at it, a human gesture, one he had never bothered to learn, but he took her hand and shook it. When can you deploy? He asked. Stepped forward. I will need complete access to your military records, battle reports, ship specifications, strategic assessments, everything. You will have it. And I will need command authority over all joint operations. hesitated. You want to command council fleets. I want to save them, said. That means they follow my orders or they die. There was no room for argument in her voice, no room for negotiation. Nodded. The war was about to change. Stood in the council war room surrounded by alien military leaders. They looked at her with a mixture of hope and doubt. She was young by their standards, human, unknown, but she was their last chance. Show me everything, she said. They showed her 6 months of battle reports, hundreds of engagements, thousands of dead ships, millions of dead people. She read through it all in silence. Her expression grew harder with each report. Finally, she looked up. You have been fighting a predator with the tactics of prey. What does that mean? An admiral asked, offended. It means you fight with honor, with rules, with the expectation that your enemy will do the same. The swarm does not have honor, it has hunger, and you cannot negotiate with hunger. So what do we do? Pulled up a star map. We stop defending and start attacking. We stop trying to save every colony and start cutting the swarm's supply lines. We stop being victims and start being killers. The room went silent. These were not words they were used to hearing, not concepts they were comfortable with. You want us to abandon colonies? A general asked, shocked. I want you to survive. Some colonies are already lost. We evacuate who we can and move on. We do not waste resources trying to hold positions that cannot be held. That is barbaric. That is reality. The swarm is not interested in your moral superiority. It is interested in eating you. Either you adapt or you die. Who had been observing quietly spoke up. What do you need from us? Everything, every ship, every soldier, every weapon. And you need to give me complete tactical control. No committees, no votes, no political interference. When I give an order, it gets followed immediately. That is asking for a lot of trust, the admiral said. Yes, it is, looked around the room. But you already trusted your own leaders and look where that got you. No one had an answer to that. Within 2 days had reorganized the entire council military structure. She divided the fleet into 3 groups, 1 group for evacuation, 1 group for defense, 1 group for attack. The attack group was where she placed all the human ships, fast, heavily armed, designed for a kind of warfare the council had never practiced. Now chief military scientist stood with her as they prepared the first operation. The council leaders are nervous, he said. They think your methods are too aggressive. They are about to get more nervous, replied. Show them the weapon specs. Pulled up the data. The council scientist who saw it looked horrified. These weapons target organic material exclusively, one said. They would destroy entire ecosystems. Yes, said simply. That is a war crime by council law. Good thing we are not following council law anymore. The first major engagement happened at the system. The swarm had taken 3 planets there and was moving toward a 4th. The council wanted to defend the 4th planet, had other plans. She evacuated the 4th planet, completely, every person, every animal, every plant that could be saved. Then she contaminated the planet. She released a bioweapon that made every organic compound on the surface poisonous to swarm biology. When the swarm arrived to feed, they found a trap. The bioweapon killed millions of swarm creatures. The survivors fled. Attack fleet was waiting. They hunted down every fleeing ship. No mercy, no prisoners, complete elimination. The council leaders watched in horror. They had won, but the cost to their morals was high. You destroyed an entire planet, said to her afterward. I saved 3 star systems, replied. The swarm uses conquered worlds as staging grounds. By taking away their staging ground, I cut off their advance in this sector. Strategy 101. But the planet is dead now. The planet can be cleaned and restored in 20 years. The people on it would have been dead forever. I made the right choice. It does not feel right. Looked at him with cold eyes. War is not about feeling right, it is about winning. You hired me to win, let me do my job. Over the next 8 months led 53 operations against the swarm. She did not fight fair. She poisoned worlds. She destroyed resources. She set traps. She used weapons that the Council considered immoral. But she won. Every time. The swarm began to retreat. Not because they were afraid, but because there was nothing left to eat in the areas where humans operated. Had turned the front lines into a wasteland. The swarm moved around these areas, looking for easier targets, but everywhere they turned, they found human ships waiting. In the command center, watched the strategic map update. The red tide of swarm territory was receding, slowly, but consistently. She is a genius, an officer said, watching coordinate 3 separate battles at once. She is a human, replied. This is how we fight. This is why the Council needed us. By the end of the year, the swarm had been pushed back to the Galactic Rim, established a defensive line of contaminated worlds, a border that the swarm could not cross without dying. The crisis was over. The Council called a special session to honor the victory, stood before them in her uniform. The chamber that had once dismissed humanity now gave her a standing ovation. But when they asked her to speak, she said only 5 words. I did what was necessary. She walked out. The applause died. They had wanted her to make them feel good about the terrible things she had done to save them. She refused. 1 year after the war ended, the Council held a final vote to ratify humanity's new position. 3 permanent seats, full voting rights, all the terms had demanded. The vote was unanimous. On that day, 3 humans walked into the Council chamber. Minyu, representing diplomatic interests, representing military matters, and Bora, a young economist who had been born on a Council world and understood both cultures. Bora stood at the podium to give humanity's first official address to the Council. We did not want this war, she began. We did not want this power. 7 years ago we came to you as friends. We offered partnership. We asked only for respect. You gave us dismissal. You gave us contempt. You gave us silence. She paused, letting the words sink in. So we gave you silence in return. And in that silence we learned something important. We learned that civilization is not natural. It is not guaranteed. It is not something that happens because everyone agrees to be civilized. Civilization is something you build and defend and fight for, even when the cost is high. She looked directly at. You believed that everyone in the galaxy wanted peace, that everyone would follow rules, that everyone shared your values. That belief almost destroyed you. Humanity learned long ago that the universe does not care about our beliefs. It does not care about our morals. It does not care if we survive or die. We built our civilization knowing that truth. We built it despite that truth. We became strong not because we wanted to conquer, but because we wanted to survive. And when the universe sent something to destroy us, we were ready. She turned to address the entire chamber. The Council is welcome to keep its ideals. Keep your honor. Keep your rules. Keep your belief that civilization will triumph through dialogue and mutual understanding. Those things are beautiful, but understand this. They only exist because someone is willing to do the ugly work of defending them. Humanity will be that someone, not because we enjoy it, not because we think it is right, but because we understand that someone has to be. And we would rather it be us than watch good people die because they were too civilized to survive. She gathered her notes. We are not you, we will never be you. We do not share all your values. We do not follow all your laws. We fight ugly. We win dirty. We do what is necessary. And the next time the universe sends something to destroy you, we will be ready again. She looked around the chamber one final time. You wanted us to learn our place. We have. Our place is standing between you and the things that would consume you. Our place is being the shield you did not know you needed. Our place is reminding the galaxy that civilization has teeth." She walked to her seat and sat down. The chamber was completely silent. Then slowly one person began to clap. Then another joined. Then another. Soon the entire chamber was applauding, not because they agreed with everything she said, but because they finally understood. After the session, Minyu walked through the council gardens. They had been there before, 7 years ago, when they still believed the council would listen. "Do you think it will last?" asked this new respect. Minyu thought about it. For a while, until they forget what the swarm taught them, until they start to believe they could have one without us, until they become comfortable again. And then we remind them, gently if we can, firmly if we must. "You are not angry anymore." "No, anger is exhausting. I am just resolved. Humanity will never be dismissed again. We will make sure of it." They walked in silence for a moment. Then Minyu smiled slightly. "Besides, we got what we wanted. 3 seats on the council, full voting rights, a voice that cannot be ignored. That is more than I dared hope for 7 years ago. It cost them a war to give it to us. Yes, it should not have, but that was their choice, not ours." Back on Earth, sat in his office and watched news reports of the council session. The curtain was still active. Human space was still closed. That would not change, treaty or no treaty. "We are part of the council again," his assistant said. "Does that mean the silence is over?" Shook his head. "The silence continues. Just because we talk to them does not mean we trust them. Trust is earned. It takes time, maybe generations. Until then, human space remains secure. Our defenses remain active. Our borders remain closed to casual traffic. That will make the council unhappy. They can be unhappy. We will be alive." He looked at the image of Earth on his screen. Blue and green and beautiful. Independent, strong, free. "The galaxy wanted us to be civilized," he said quietly. "We showed them that sometimes civilization needs monsters to protect it, and now they have to live with the monsters they created." His assistant looked confused. "Are we the monsters?" Smiled. "We are the humans. To some species that is the same thing, and that is fine. Better to be feared and alive than loved and dead." Outside his window, human warships patrolled the border, silent, watchful, ready. The council had learned its lesson. Humanity had learned theirs. And the galaxy would never be quite the same again.